And we're back with some more New York Rangers franchise mode in FHM 11. And in this one, we are at the trade deadline of year number 1. Currently 43, 23, and 3 with 89 points. So good enough for second in the division, right behind New Jersey. And we're in a very difficult spot right now. Not because of our record. Obviously, that's in a pretty good spot. But the spot that we're in currently is more so financially, as I did manage to get Igor Shesterkin down to 10.3 on his extension. But is that worth it? We also have to consider who else is coming up here. You have Alexei Lafreniere, currently 23 years of age. He is currently making 2.65 for one more year. And he's had a pretty good year so far this year. 46 points in 69 games played, 21 goals, a 64 grade overall. And he's going from his current contract to nearly 7.3 for 4 years. That's a nearly $5 million increase from what he's currently making. Shesterkin getting almost $5 million compared to what he's currently making on his cap, which is 5.66. Then you have Donato, who's currently making $2 million, wants almost $6 million. Then you have K'Andre Miller, who's making 3.8, at least as far as his cap hit goes. And then on his extension, he wants 6.6. There is no way we're affording all these players. We're already up against the cap ceiling as is. And I'll be honest, this is probably the most I've deliberated over a team's contract situation, because this team has so many large contracts and aging players. But all those aging players are still really good, right? And we're still in a position where we're a really good team, so I don't necessarily want to trade all of them away right now. But I think, I'm going to be honest, if we sign Shesterkin and Laf, I think Panarin is going to be gone at the draft. He's currently 33. His birthday's on October 30th, so he's going to be 34 around the start of next season, and that's making 11.6 on his cap. I just don't see a scenario, unless we don't sign both Shesterkin and Laf, in which we're going to be able to hold on to all these players. Like, somebody's got to go. We're definitely going to be trading Gustafsson at the draft. He's making 3.9 on his cap hit for the next 2 years as a 2-star ability, 32-year-old defenseman. There's a possibility that Trocheck might have to go at the draft as well. Like, this team has got so many big contracts, and now we're just adding on to it with Shesterkin's deal and with Laf, and then K'Andre Miller as well. That's a pretty big ask for a 2.5-star defenseman. So there's no way we're affording Donato. There's absolutely no way we're going to be able to retain Donato after this season. I don't really mind letting Donato walk, to be honest. It's Shesterkin who is definitely not walking. And obviously we can auto-qualify Laf if it comes down to it, but Shesterkin, unfortunately, we cannot do that. I will be quite honest. I think this has been one of the hardest decisions I've had to make over the course of channel history, to be honest, because there's just so much risk at play here that it's definitely one of those decisions that GMs get paid the big bucks for, because it could be one of those decisions that makes or breaks the franchise, right? And we're here sitting here at year number 1 with this kind of having to make this kind of decision. And another thing you also have to consider with Shesterkin is his performance last season, where he had the .918 save percentage and that 19.56 goals saved above average. And then you also have to consider the fact that Laf's making an extra $5 million from what he's currently making. So even once you re-sign Shesterkin and Laf and then trade Panarin, you're probably still going to be up at the cap ceiling, meaning there's going to be no room to improve the defensive core, which is what this team really needs, I think. So if we want to improve our defensive core, we're not only going to have to trade Panarin, but we're going to have to trade another big name too, not just, Panarin and Gustafsson. There's got to be somebody else there as well. With where this team is going, there needs to be some serious changes especially to the forward core, because with the way our defensive core is right now, we're certainly not in the position to be trading any of our defensemen. And if we trade Shesterkin, then we don't really have a clear future in net, unfortunately, as our only goalie prospects are Dylan Garand and Talon Boyko, who's already 22 and only had a 1-star ability. So yeah, it's a real tough decision. It's one of those decisions that GMs are paid to make, that's for sure. I mean, you could also take into consideration that this is the last year of AV's contract, and then assuming that it doesn't work out this year in the playoffs, then we could go after a more of a defensive-minded coach in the offseason, and maybe with a little boost to our defensive core, then that might help out Shesterkin next year, assuming we re-sign him. Because, I mean, you do have to consider the fact that the image of the defensive core did change a little bit between last season and this season. Obviously, there was Trouba and Lindgren, who we traded both of them away due to cap and personality issues. But obviously, we kind of had to trade Trouba just given the cap situation. And I think guys like K'Andre Miller have really benefited from the increase in ice time. But clearly, we're kind of still lacking something on defense. And to be honest, Braden Schneider has not been the best simulator. Yeah, even last year, he had a 57 grade for the Presidents. And this year he has that same exact grade. So I'm thinking we might end up trading him as well at some point. And at this point, I'm just rambling. just going on while I deliberate on Shesterkin. I'm still deciding on Shesterkin. It's been a few days since the last time I recorded a Rangers episode because I've just been so stumped on what to do. But I think if we could get something back for Panarin at the draft, that would be ideal because, you know, he's going to be 34 anyway. We may as well just get a really nice package back for him. And that frees up enough cap space to make room for Laff and for Shesterkin. And then once we move out Gustafsson and Schneider, we can replace them with hopefully better simulators, or at least if the players that we get to replace Schneider and Gustafsson aren't better simulators, then they should at least be cheaper than them, you know? So I believe I've come to a verdict, and I think what we're going to do is offer Shesterkin and Laff. So we'll give Shesterkin 10.3 for 7 years. It's going to be a lot, but you got to believe that Shesterkin is going to be able to get back to where he was. Because obviously there have been times this season where he has shown that he is maybe not even an AHL level goaltender. He had some games where he's 821 save percentage, but there are also games where he stole the show, like this game against Washington, the shutout in 45 shots against, 972 save percentage, 943, 943, 970, right? So he's clearly capable of stealing games, but then there's also those ugly games, right? So I'm hoping that he's going to be able to stay consistent next year, because it looks like last year for the Presidents, he was able to do just that. And you got to think that as a veteran goaltender, he would be able to do that. So we will offer him 10.3 for 7 years with a no trade clause, submit offer. And then Lafreniere, I will offer you as well. And I got him down to 6.7 for 4 years. We'll definitely do that for him. So with those two offers on the board, we have pretty much locked ourselves into trading Panarin at the draft. There's basically no avoiding it now. And there you go. Shesterkin and Laff have signed their contracts. We have a trade proposal from Dallas here. They want Braden Schneider in exchange for Albert Sjoberg. No thanks. That's not good enough. That being said, since this is definitely the last year that we can afford to keep Panarin on this roster, we're going to need to go all out, right? We're going to need to really go for it at the playoffs this year. So you know what we'll do? I'm going to see if we can find a couple of defensemen to replace Gustafsson and Schneider, because they're just not really simulating that well. I mean, Gustafsson, he's all right, but you know, he's making a lot more than he should. But Schneider is just flat out not a good simulator. So I'll take a look at the trade block and see if we can find a replacement for Gustafsson and Schneider. And then there's also one other small trade that I want to make. So small trade here, we're going to be sending Anton Bleed and a 4th round pick for this year's draft from Dallas in exchange for Colton Sissons at 50% of his salary retained. He's great at faceoffs, and I think that's something we need for our 4th line. And obviously his cap hit's at 1.7 for the next 2 years, but we're going to be retaining 50% of his salary. So I can't imagine that'll hurt too much, especially after we trade Schneider and Gustafsson. So offer trade, finalize. And I believe I have found a trade for Braden Schneider and Eric Gustafsson. They're both heading to the San Jose Sharks, who are currently 27, 33, and 7. So obviously not the playoff picture, but they do have a player who I'm very interested in acquiring only for this year. This is purely a rental. All right, we are not re-signing this guy. That will be Shane Gostisbehere. He is on their trading block, and they do want to trade him. We're going to be retaining 50% of his salary so that we can fit under the cap. He's currently at a 3.5-star ability, very good offensively. I think that'll help solve some of our problems on the back end in terms of lack of scoring. There, obviously, you know, we have Fox and we have Brady Shea, who's been pretty good offensively this year as well. But getting Ghost in there should be a big help to our production from the back end. So Braden Schneider, Eric Gustafsson, and a 7th in exchange for Shane Gostisbehere at 50% of his salary retained. Offer trade finalized. There it is. Big trade with the San Jose Sharks. So that takes us to 83.9 million. We technically have 6 defensemen now, but I do want to get one more just in case. So I'm going to take one more look at the trade block and see who's out there. Well, look who it is. Jacob Trouba. Now on the Seattle Kraken, it looks like what's it called? Vegas. They released him. They didn't even trade him. They just straight up released him. So guess they didn't want to deal with that contract. And then Seattle signs him to a 1-year deal for almost $5 million. I mean, it's not like we're going to be getting him back here as, you know, he won't be well liked, but still, it's funny. I think who we are going to be trading for here is Brian Dumoulin of the Seattle Kraken, 33 years of age, making $3 million on his contract. He's got a 76 defensive grade, so I like that a lot. Once again, purely a rental player, and we are obviously going to have to retain half of his cap considering the situation we are in. And it looks like they're selling Dumoulin for peanuts right now, as we can just offer them Oliver Tarnstrom, who's a half-star ability and 1.5-star potential, and looks like they will definitely accept that. So you know what? That's good enough for me. The rights to Oliver Tarnstrom in exchange for Brian Dumoulin at 50% of his salary retained, offer trade, and finalize. So there you go. A solid veteran defensive defenseman brought in as our 7th defenseman for some stability on the back end. We are still under the salary cap ceiling, so that's good. We might have room for one more here, one more rental. To be honest, I'm not really a fan of Will Coyley. He has not been simulating well. Did not even simulate well last year for the Presidents either. He had 13 points in 58 games played then, and this year in 62 games played, he has 7 points and 53 grade. So I'd like to see if we can get someone who's maybe a bit more physical and a bit more defensively minded for that 4th line to replace him. I mean, he has 62 hits, so he's physical, but I would like to try to improve in any way we can here to try to increase our chances at the Cup for this year, because obviously we're going to have to definitely move on from a big player, and that's likely going to be Panarin, like I said. So I will take one more look at the trade block and see who might be willing to take Coyley in exchange for a solid veteran. And I think we'll be making a trade with the Washington Capitals to acquire Kyle Palmieri, 34 years of age, making $5 million on a 1-year deal. So obviously gonna have to retain his cap once again. But I like his checking rating at 16, hitting at 14, positioning at 14, defensive rating at 15. No slouch offensively either, as he has, I believe, 30 points this season with the Washington Capitals and a 60 grade. So clearly much better, at least at the moment, than Will Coyley. And obviously Coyley has not been very impressive this season and was not very impressive last season either. He's 23, so I doubt he's really going to grow that much more. It looks like Washington's in a rebuild anyway, so they'd be pretty likely, I would say, to take Coyley straight up for Palmieri. Yep, that will work. I mean, assuming they still say the same once we retain 50% of Palmieri's cap. Yes, they will. Maybe a 5th. No, all right, that's fine. We'll just do Coyley for Palmieri straight up. So Will Coyley for Kyle Palmieri at 50% of his salary retained. Offer trade finalized. There it is. We're still under the salary cap ceiling, and I think this is as good as it's gonna get. To be honest with you. But there you go. 4 trades made to revamp our roster a little bit. We acquired Sissons from Nashville. We acquired Ghost Despair from the Sharks in exchange for Schneider and Gustafsson. We acquired Brian Dumoulin from Seattle, and we acquired Kyle Palmieri from Washington in exchange for Coyley. And of course, with all those trades, we are that much older as a team. Over half our roster is 30 or older at this point. So this is definitely a team that has to win. This is a must-win season for your New York Rangers. Must win. Because once Panarin's gone, and he's without a doubt going to have to be moved at the draft this year, it's probably going to be that much harder to win next year, right? So we got to make it count this season. We have to make it count. So I think we'll stick with the AV lines for now. But if we start struggling, and faceoffs is one of the areas we're struggling in, then I might have to take control of the Lions and move Hedel to the wing, because he's really not great at faceoffs, as we see by his faceoff percentage. 40.5. So definitely something to keep in mind there. But I think we're going to go ahead. Actually, you know what? I will take control of the lineups for right now, purely so I can move Hedel. Honestly, even Kreider would be better at faceoffs for that second line than Hedel. He's got that, at least Kreider has a 12, about Donato, only 10. Yeah, there's not really too many better guys for the center. We might just have to deal with Hedel at center for right now, because there's no one else I want to move. And anyone else who has a better face-off rating than Hedel isn't a natural center. Like, Kreider only has a 12 rating for center, so he's not going to be playing to the best of his ability there. So as I save this preset, I think this is just what we're going to have to roll with for right now. So that being said, we'll see how those deals with Nashville, San Jose, Seattle, and Washington work out for us, and we will advance up to the end of the regular season. Okay, we've been losing a little too much lately. What's going on? What the heck is going on? Let's see the schedule. I mean, we start out March pretty good with a win against San Jose and a win against New Jersey, but then it's a loss, win, loss. That's 6 of the last 7 as losses. It's not like we make trades now either. What the heck is going on? Shesterkin, how you doing, buddy? Oh my god. Shesterkin. Shesterkin, I really hope that you rebound next season, because right now you're not looking pretty. I really hope that you don't give me any more reason to regret giving you that contract extension, man, because you're a big part of this team. You gotta simulate like a $10 million player once you start making that much money next year. A 3-2 loss, come on. All right, last game against LA. So we don't even have any regular season games in April this year. What's going to be 4-3 loss. So we're not going into the playoffs on a good note here. Here we are at the end of the regular season. We finished 48, 30, and 4. Good enough for 100 points, right behind New Jersey. So we do not get first in the division, unfortunately. And as we take a look at the player stats here, Adam Fox leads the way with 78 points on the season. Kreider with 77, Panarin with 72, and he had 104 last season, so that's a bit of a regression there. Although he did simulate very well still with that 74 grade. Zibanejad with 59 points. Then you have Hedl with 58. So Hedl, once again, very good point producer, but face-off wise, he's a bit rough. If we're going to keep Hedl, I definitely want to move him to wing in the future and get someone else for that second line center. Then you have Laff with 54 points. So he's following up last season with, if you stretch his performance last season over the course of 82 games, he's probably looking at more like 65 points. So at least in terms of points per game, you could argue that Laff had a bit of a regression this season, but it is still a pretty good season nonetheless. Then you have Donato with 52 points. There's no chance we're going to be able to afford him going into next season. Yeah, he's like asking for $6 million. No chance. And then you have Trocheck with 48. You have Ghost with 47. How many of those were with us? He had 10 points with us in 13 games played. That's good. He's definitely a very welcome addition to the blue line, if only for this season. Then you have Kako with 44 points. Shea with 42. Paul Mary with 39. How many of those were with us? He had 9 points in 13 games played for us. Definitely much better than Coyley did. I think Coyley had, like 7 points total in the time that we had him for this season. So definitely an upgrade there with Paul Mary. And then you have Dumoulin with 29 and 69 games played, 25 Petrie, 24 for Miller, 22 for Rempe, 12 for Edstrom, and 11 for Robertson. And you have 6 for Vesey and Nash, 3 for Sissons, and 1 for Scanlon. And in goal, you have Brossoit in 25 games played with a 922, and Igor Shesterkin in 60 games played with a 901, and a goal saved above average of negative 7.52. Yeah, this was a rough season for him. 765. Oh my God, Shesterkin. Oh, that's rough. 3 goals against on 5 shots against Ottawa. Oh my God, Shesterkin. What is going on with you this season? All I'll say is he better not simulate like this next year. He better not. If he simulates anything like this next season, I'm going to instantly regret that contract offer. That's all I'm saying, because, oh man, he's been so bad. Why Shesterkin? Oh, he was after the trade deadline, he was just so bad. Like with the exception of a couple of games, like right here against New Jersey with that 947, and then against the Islanders with the 933. Every other game besides those two after the trade deadline, he was just not there. Oh man, Shesterkin, please, next season you got to be much better. I'm almost tempted to just start Brossoit in the playoffs. I'm tempted to start Brossoit in the playoffs. Shesterkin's been that bad, and honestly, I think I might. I think I very well might, because look at what Brossoit's done as of late. A shutout against LA. Granted, he only had 10 saves in that game, but still. And then a 938 against Ottawa, 929 against Utah, 947 against Toronto, 930 against Boston. I'm heavily considering going with Brossoit in the playoffs. That's really sad. That's really sad, considering we just offered Shesterkin, 10.3 for the next 7 years and a no trade clause. Who the heck is going to take that contract if he continues to perform like this? Oh man. But before we end things off here, let's check out the team stats. We finished 12th in goals for per game with a 3.32, and goals against per game we finished 8th in the league with a 2.93. So I don't know how that was possible considering Shesterkin's performance this year, but it's frustrating because whenever Shesterkin's on, we're a really good team. We are such a good team when Shesterkin is on, but when Shesterkin's off, and he's had many of those kinds of games this season, we're just not there. We're not there at all. Let's see, where are we on faceoffs? 18th in the league with a 49.7. Power play, we are, oh dear, 27th in the league with an 18.5. That could definitely use some work, especially going into next season. Penalty kill with an 82.9, 5th in the league. So it's odd that, the penalty kill and the goals against per game are high up there considering the struggles of Shesterkin, but that might be thanks to Laurent Brossoit. Yeah, I'm heavily considering him for the playoffs. And with that being said, I think we'll end things off here. And the next one, we will start out the year 1 playoffs against the Pittsburgh Penguins, and possibly even with Laurent Brossoit in net. See you guys then.